to arrest him. There was nothing, they could find nothing wrong with that because in this case, the police didn't even initiate it. They were called because Freddie Gray was being problematic to the area he was in. So the police were called on this. They didn't just get themselves into it by themselves. He ended up dying because, long story short, he ended up dying because he had a ton of fentanyl. He was a known drug addict who was, I'll grant you, they said was trying to get clean and had been clean for a while, but obviously fell off the wagon, was back. He had tons of fentanyl in his system. And then also there was a police officer that was detaining him by pushing him down on the ground and had his knee on his neck. Now, Freddie he was in handcuffs, so I could definitely see where the debate there is as to whether he needed to have his knee on his neck or not, and the debate as to whether that could have contributed to his death, which there's two sides to that, and we won't get into that right now, but the whole thing was made to a race thing, that they stopped him because he was black. Well, no, they were called there. Also that he was mistreated because he was black. There has been no proof of any racial component to that as well, except for the fact that, again, one of the officers was white and the victim in this case was black. Other than that, there's nothing indicating that there was a racial motivation behind the abuse or even alleged abuse. Last one I'm going to talk about for the BLM stuff is Michael Brown. Remember that one? Ferguson, huge riots, all kinds of stuff. Hands up, don't shoot. Well, again, the peaceful giant that never hurt a soul and was not resisting. Well, it turns out he is a huge young man, or was a huge young man. He had just gotten done robbing a Vietnamese, or it was some sort of an Asian small kind of not a grocery store, but maybe a convenience store. And he robbed them, used extreme violence. He was stopped because he was walking down the middle of the road, by the way. That's why they stopped him again. Not because he was black, but because he was walking in the middle of a very busy road. Again, they would stop no matter what the race is. If someone's walking down the middle of a road, you're going to get stopped if a police officer comes by. It's a traffic hazard. It's a hazard to yourself. So ended up being a scuffle. Michael Brown was trying to pull the police officer's gun. Thankfully, it was unsuccessful. Otherwise, he would have shot the police officer, and guess what? There wouldn't have been it wouldn't have made the news hardly. It might have made their local news, but then it wouldn't have been any news because, according to the progressive media, who cares if a black person shoots a cop, especially if he's white? Anyway, that's another example of just where the media has taken a story and they just completely run with it and end up looking like fools. And unfortunately, too many of us regular people listening to it end up falling for it. And then days later or weeks later, you find out, it's not anything what was being reported. Let's talk about climate change. That's another one that could have its own full episode. Let's talk about a few things that were egregiously wrong that people predicted and said this is going to happen, and if you don't believe what I'm telling you, you're an idiot. In so many words, they were saying that, and sometimes we're using the words idiot. Climate change deniers, climate change skeptics are a bunch of idiots, uneducated, and non-believers, and it's crazy. So, first of all, I don't know if there might be a lot of you that don't know this, but in 1970s, they were predicting an ice age. And this was the professionals, this is the experts, the scientists. They predicted that there was going to be a catastrophic ice age due to pollution. So then in the 80s, they switched their role and said, okay, no, instead of an ice age, we want to, I don't know if it wasn't getting enough people alarmed or pushing the agenda that they wanted. But in the 80s, they decided to flip and say, okay, no, now it's global warming. So they went from one extreme to the other. And then all of a sudden, the Maldives Islands were going to be underwater by 2018 because of global warming. Let's see, what else was going to happen? Oh, the Arctic. This was a downright catastrophic prediction. The Arctic was going to have no ice by 2018. By 2018. This was predicted back in 2008 or 2009. And that was Al Gore. There was Al Gore and there was several others that were predicting this. I also said that polar bears were going to become extinct because of the melting Arctic. Well, guess what? We have not had a summer yet that the Arctic has completely melted all of its ice. In fact, since then, the ice has been expanding. There's been more, not by a ton. It's no big thing, but it's going the other way. There's more ice every year since, and it's still trending just ever so slightly to have more and more ice, and it still is today. Do y'all remember ClimateGate? Another one of those around that area, around 2008 or so, in which some emails were hacked and leaked, and the University of what was that university? It'll come to me in a minute. But it's this University of East. I apologize, y'all. It's East Anglia. It's a university in England, and they are kind of the hub for climate change. They're a very, very important place where data is collected and disseminated to the rest of the world about climate change, but mostly about global temperatures and stuff like that. Well, these emails were leaked. The head of the institute that's in that university that does all of this stuff was basically telling everybody to lie, to fib the numbers, to stretch the numbers just a little bit in favor of warming. So and of course they said, no, we have to do that their excuse was that, well, we have to adjust numbers because of instrument error or because of other errors, whatever like that. But it's funny because every single one of them that he's saying it was to fib in favor of warming. So if it was just other anomalies, it would be adjusting them up and down. But anyway, that came out, and that's just that wasn't a report that was doesn't fit into they reported something and then got egg in their face. That was something that was behind the scenes that came to light. But it goes to the point of there's people out there with agendas, and you need to be careful about what you take for truth and what you take to heart. To bring it to a little bit more, recent, is with a hospital bombing in Gaza. That was just a few days back, last week. What did we hear when that first happened? First, we heard there was 100 people, then 500 people, then 900 people. There was 1,000 people dead when this bomb from Israel hit the hospital in Gaza. And also we were hearing, now it was mostly Hamas, I'll admit, that was saying this. They were reporting that Israel targeted the hospital and that there were thousands dead. And then that was getting repeated. It was not being fact-checked by anybody. All these so-called people that really want to check the facts and make sure they get it right. Were they doing that? No. They were just repeating as if it was a true story. Well, it didn't take very long, especially Rashida Tlaib. She's the representative from up north. I don't know, Minnesota, Michigan, one of those northern, I think it's Michigan actually, one of those northern states. She's Islamic, and she's very, she's not even progressive. She's radical Islamic. She's championing the killing of the babies that Hamas was doing whenever they had their initial attack. Well, she also came out. She didn't come out on the video news, but she either tweeted or did some sort of a text or something like that on social media to where she accused Israel of targeting this hospital. Well, it didn't take but a day or two to find out that it was actually Hamas's own rocket that hit this hospital. It didn't even hit the hospital. It hit the parking lot, and maybe 10 people are dead. So not that a loss of 10 people is tragic. But the point is that every single part of that story ended up being completely wrong. Completely wrong. They messed up. Hamas messed up, and then everybody reported it as if it was Israel targeting, just being evil Israel for no reason. For no reason, they just decided to shoot this hospital, even though Israel does not have a track record of going after innocent people on purpose. Have they gotten innocent civilians just because of collateral damage? Yes. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Should they be more careful? That's something that could be up for debate. Fine. But to say that they have ever just targeted hospitals, babies, innocents like that is absolutely ridiculous. So I spent a little bit, that took a little while to go down, and that's just a handful of them. And I didn't even go very deep into these different stories, but it just shows you how much crap is out there. It really is. How much news is coming out that is completely and utterly wrong, at least on the important content. And why is that? Well, it used to be, for sure, I remember a day, this was whenever I was younger, I remember a day whenever the reason they got these things wrong is because the different news agencies were trying to be the first to report something. So as soon as they got a hold of some information, they're blasting it on the news and end up getting embarrassed. And it was just because they're trying to be the first to report it and get the ratings. Though that was bad enough, but it's funny that we're in a day now to where we could actually look back on those and say, man, it was nice whenever it was an accident that people were, or it was just people trying to rush things out. That's the only reason they got it wrong. Because today, it's agendas. Now, granted, there's probably still some of this trying to rush news out to get ratings. I'll grant you that. But there can be no doubt that most of the inaccuracies out there are politically motivated or socially motivated by somebody's own agenda. So what can we do about that? If you are able to cull through all of that and get to the truth yourself, then that is great. That's good. But if you're somebody that says, I get confused sometimes. There are people who are accusing others of misinformation, and they're in turn accusing them of misinformation, and it's back and forth, and everybody says everybody else is lying, but they say that they're the ones that are telling the truth. How do I know what to believe? Well, first of all, let me give you this. Don't believe any of them, okay? Don't believe any one source for anything. Listen and look at multiple sources, especially if it's contrary to what you may want it to be. You may want to hear this news that's coming out, and you may want it to sound a certain way, and that's fine. We all have our own beliefs and our own worldview, and the last thing I want to see is something that's in line with my worldview that goes awry, that maybe is a bit upsetting, and I get that. But more than that, I would rather know the truth. I don't know about you. I would rather not just go down with my rose-colored glasses going throughout life, just being spoon-fed information and taking it like it's just fine. So you need to check and check and check again. And also, you're going to start finding trends. If you start finding trends within news agencies or sources of lies, then remember that. Take that into account and don't forget it. Use your common sense. Use your God-given common sense. If something seems outrageous, just because 10 news agencies and all the polls are pointing towards everybody having a certain point of view, it does not make it right. If you in your heart is saying, man, that just sounds wrong, but everybody's saying it, so it must be right. No, don't do that. Don't allow the overwhelming numbers to dissuade you from something that you know is probably not right and that you just feel in your heart. So use your common sense and just continue to find out. Continue to find out what that truth is. And to go along with that, just wait. When a news article pops up, everybody loves to be the one that has all the knowledge and all the info about it. We go on our groups of friends and we get on Facebook, and we just can't wait to be the ones to comment, or the ones that somebody else may bring it up. But, I have the latest information. Well, you may or may not. And oftentimes that ends up being embarrassing for people who are just trying to be the ones that have all the information. So many, if you do that, I'm not picking on you because so many people do, by the way. You are not the only one. I would tend to say the majority of people do. Can I tell you what I like to do? I like to wait and listen. People will even come to me and ask me about it. I'll give my opinion, but I'll also, if it's something that I don't know much about, I'll say, well, I'm going to wait and see. I don't know. I'll tell you tomorrow maybe.